What is up, guys? Delboy here. Today I want to talk about Anthony Yarde, and I want to talk about his next fight. Now, from what I see online, and this is not confirmed, apparently Anthony Yarde is going to be in the ring next in October. Now, that's not been confirmed yet, but that's what I've read online. I basically want to talk about his next opponent and who I would like to see him fight. I'm going to talk about, I'm going to talk about a few different options that are realistic and are a step up from his previous competition. Now, Anthony Yarde is a light heavyweight prospect coming out of the UK. He does have a fair amount of hype surrounding him. I personally feel there is something there to work with, considering his late start to boxing and lack of amateur background. I actually think his technique and ability is quite remarkable, really. You know, considering how late he started and how quickly he's picked up the sport, I really feel there's something to work with there. But you know, in the UK, I really get the sense that people now are starting to lose interest. The level of competition for Anthony Yarde has been, quite frankly, abysmal. And it kind of makes me think, what's he actually learning from these fights? Is he actually improving? Are we seeing improvements in the ring? I think it's really hard to tell with the level of competition he's been fighting so far. The only fight I think that was good for him was the Nicolas Sedlocka fight. I think that was a good learning fight for the stage of his career. Sedlocka is a tough guy. Yes, he's past his prime. Yes, he's coming up a weight class. But he did draw to Robert Stieglitz at light heavyweight. And, you know, he's a capable guy who's durable. For a guy who was like 14-0 at the time, I think that's okay. That's an okay opponent. But apart from that, you know, the level of competition has been awful. And I don't think he's really had great development fights, to be honest with you. And I wanted to talk about some fights that I feel would be good for Anthony Yarde. The first one, and this has been talked about for a little while now, is the fight between him and Hosea Burton. Hosea Burton was the former British light heavyweight champion. Obviously, he lost that belt to Frank Buglioni. Although I feel Hosea Burton is beatable and he has flaws, he will definitely show something to Anthony Yarde that he's not seen before. Hosea Burton is extremely tall for the weight. He's like 6'4". He moves okay, he's quite awkward, and he carries some punching power. You know, he's going to show Anthony Yarde some different angles. He's going to move a bit. He's got some power. You know, these are things that Anthony Yarde hasn't really had to contest with so far. And I think it's a good match because, yes, Hosea Burton is beatable. I don't think he's that durable. You know, I question whether he can keep Anthony Yarde off of him. But it's a fight where I think Yarde would learn a thing or two. I think it's beneficial for him to take that type of fight, given the style of Hosea Burton. You know, Burton's not an everyday fighter in terms of style, at least. British level fighter, but that would probably still mark the best opponent of Anthony Yarde's career to date. I really do believe that. And a similar fighter to Hosea Burton in terms of awkwardness is a guy called Bob Ajisafe. Bob Ajisafe is a light heavyweight based out of Leeds. Now, Bob Ajisafe is a southpaw. Again, he's quite big for the weight. He's like 6'2", very awkward, decent boxing skills, good defence. He's just a really tricky customer. Not only that, he's been in there with some good competition over the years. He's been in there with the likes of Umar Salamov. He gave him a good fight in Russia. He's fought Tony Bellew. He dropped Tony Bellew, actually. You know, give him a really good fight. He's beaten the likes of Travis Dickinson, Dean Francis, Matty Clarkson, Oval McKenzie. You know, Bob Ajisafe is a very, very slick, awkward, horrible type of fighter to contend with, and that is a tremendous learning fight. And I think it would be good for Anthony Yarde to take because, well, Bob Ajisafe has been inactive. He is 33 years old, so he may not be the fighter he was a few years ago, but he's still going to have that awkwardness. He's still going to have that elusiveness and that counter-punching ability from that southpaw stance. So although Yarde will probably get to him, again, he's going to show Yarde some angles and he's going to show Yarde some tricks that he's never seen before. You know, these are what learning fights are all about. Contending with things you've not seen before and finding a way to get past those so you can do it at a higher level. Guys like Bob Ajisafe and Hosea Burton, to me, are perfect fights for Anthony Yarde to kind of develop his skill set and gain his experience on the come up. If he doesn't want to fight those type of domestic rivals, and he's looking at more sort of international level fighters, then why not somebody like Karo Murat? Karo Murat has fought for a couple of world titles in the past, obviously came up short against Nathan Cleverly and against Bernard Hopkins, but Karo Murat has been around for years. He's been a European champion, he's beaten guys like Dominic Bozel, he's been around for years and he's got a lot of experience. So Karo Murat could take Anthony Yarde some rounds, he'll come to fight. Again, that's a decent development fight as far as I'm concerned. Maybe someone like Igor Mikhalkin, who obviously Sergei Kovalev fought. Igor Mikhalkin, again, decent boxer, durable, not the biggest puncher but can box. He's beaten guys like Tommy Oosthausen and Dudu Ngumbu, and he's also fought for a world title, like I said. I think that's a decent learning fight. He's going to take Anthony Yarde some rounds. So again, Igor Mikhalkin, I think, is an ideal opponent for Anthony Yarde. These are the type of fights I'm looking for Anthony Yarde. Also guys like Enrico Koling, Vyacheslav Shabransky, again, those are guys I wouldn't mind seeing Anthony Yarde in the ring with next. There are guys out there for Anthony Yarde to fight. It's not like the light heavyweight division hasn't got a sort of a plethora of fringe contenders out there. These guys are all good learning fights for Anthony Yarde. Even someone like Edwin Rodriguez. We all know Edwin Rodriguez is very sort of defensively open, but he comes to fight, he'll let his hands go. He'll actually try and meet fire with fire, and he's going to make Anthony Yarde work for his victory. All of these guys, to me, are good opponents for Anthony Yarde. Much better than what he's been fighting so far, but not world level guys who are going to necessarily expose him. He's going to learn things in the process of these fights. So all of these names I've mentioned to me are perfect for Anthony Yarde in his next couple of fights. These are the type of guys he needs to be fighting before jumping to world level. I've got the fear that what they're going to do with Yarde is they're going to feed him this diet of, guys who can't punch, guys who can't defend themselves, guys who are grossly overmatched. And then after that, they're going to chuck him in there with a world champion and he's going to get brutally exposed. Because that's the way it's looking at the minute. He's number one in the WBO without beating anybody. He's really not beat anybody of any consequence. And him jumping into a world title off the back of that run, it could be detrimental to his performance in that fight, and not only that, to his future career. So, listen, I would like to see Anthony Yarde take some good development fights, take some fights with guys who are going to actually come to fight, guys who are going to come prepared, guys who have fought at a certain level. And the names I've mentioned, to me, they're the type of guys I want to see Yarde in with next. Or do you feel that, Yarde is just one of those talents where he doesn't need to fight these type of guys and he can just jump up and realistically beat any of the top light heavyweights without fighting these type of guys? Do you feel Yarde is that good? Maybe I'm wrong, who knows, but I personally feel Yarde needs these type of development fights, 2 or 3 of these type of fights before he steps up. Or again, on the flip side, do you think these fights I've mentioned are too big of a step up, sorry? What do you guys think? Tell me how you want to see Yarde moved. Peace.